What's going on, college football fans? It's week 14. It's the final week of college football, and it's rivalry week. This is where teams play more grittier, play harder, play a little better just because they want to beat their all time school rival. I'm going to be giving you guys my top 10 picks for games on Saturday for college football. And let's dive right into it. I got a few upsets, I got a couple no brain winners. I'm going to give you guys my feelings and opinions on why I think they're going to win. So let's jump right into it with game number one with South Carolina at Clemson. So game number one, we have number 15 South Carolina going against number 12 Clemson Tigers. Both teams are looking for a playoff spot here. If the Gamecocks can get a win against a top 12 team, then hopefully that could catapult them into the college playoff. And Clemson's also looking to get a win against a top 15 team, hopefully solidifying themselves in the college playoff as well. For South Carolina, this would be its sixth straight and fourth win over a ranked opponent, and Clemson would be its 10th in the past 11 games since a season opening 34-3 beatdown by Georgia. Clemson Tigers and their quarterback Cade Klubnik are going to have their hands full this week with the South Carolina defense, specifically Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart. They've combined for a total of 25 tackles and 18 sacks, and the Gamecocks are ranked second in the SEC in sacks with 39. Citadel ran almost 300 yards on Clemson last week, so they're definitely going to have to tighten up their ground defense if they have any chance in winning this game. I don't think the South Carolina quarterback, Lenoris Sellers, is going to be totally a big factor in this game. He has steadily improved and gotten much better over the past couple of weeks. Thrown 13 of his 17 touchdowns in the past 5 games, and he's had his first two 300-yard passing games in the last 2 weeks. So I don't think he's going to be the biggest player to look out for. I definitely believe this is going to be a game of the Gamecocks defense and the Clemson Tigers offense. If they can't get it going on the running game, they're going to have to get it going on the passing game, which I think is the best route for Clemson to go with this one. Now, South Carolina has won 5 of the last 6 matchups, but I am going to take the Clemson Tigers to get this victory over South Carolina on Saturday. I believe their offense is just going to have more of a, I don't know, I think they're going to gel more than South Carolina. Clemson's defense might throw them fits. This is going to be one of the biggest games for Lenoris Sellers, the quarterback for South Carolina. So I'm going to go Clemson. I think it's going to be a very close game, possibly an overtime game, but I'm going to take Clemson in this matchup. Another big playoff implication game we have is the number 5 and 6 Kansas Jayhawks and the 7-4 Baylor Bears. Kansas is going to Waco to play Baylor. They lead the series 18-4. Now, Kansas Jayhawks, I don't think it's any secret what they've done the last 3 weeks. They're the first team in FBS history with a losing record to win 3 consecutive games against ranked opponents. And Kansas has to win its regular season final against Baylor here to be bowl eligible. Baylor has the Big 12's longest active win streak at 5 in a row, and the Bears, who started 0-3 in Big 12 play, are one of 9 teams still mathematically in contention for a spot in the conference championship game. But it would take a lot of chaos for that to happen. Baylor has won the last 13 games in the series and is 11-0 in Waco against the Jayhawks. Listen, I know Kansas has been on a super high up streak and they've been playing very, very good football against very good teams in the last 3 weeks. I'm going to have to give this to Baylor, though. Kansas is 11-0 in Waco. Baylor has also won the last 13 matchups against Kansas. I don't know. I trust quarterback Sawyer Robertson a little bit more than I do Jalen Daniels, only because the pass defense for Baylor is going to be, I think, a lot better than what Kansas is going to put on the field Saturday at 12. So I'm going to give the edge to Baylor, although I don't think anyone's going to be able to erase from the history books, obviously, because they've made history. They've won 3 of their last games against opponents that are ranked, and Kansas has done a really good job playing solid football. I just think the train's going to come to the end of the line this Saturday, unfortunately. Next game on the slate, I have the 6-5 Virginia Mountaineers against the 7-4 Texas Tech Red Raiders. West Virginia leads this series 7-6. West Virginia and Texas Tech both cling at faint hopes in reaching the Big 12 championship game, but must win and get plenty of help. West Virginia coach Neil Brown also remains on the hot seat and could reinforce his argument for keeping his job, though, by finishing 4-0 on the road in conference play this season. Now, Texas Tech quarterback Burhan Morton against West Virginia's pass defense. Morton completed 37 for 53 passes and 404 yards and 4 touchdowns last week at Oklahoma State. And he should surpass his 3,000-yard passing mark this week. He's thrown for 25 touchdowns and 7 interceptions only. The Mountaineers have allowed numerous long pass plays and blown coverage. Their 14.5 yards allowed per completion are the worst among Power 4 schools. Now, I know this is going to surprise a lot of people. The winner, I'm taking this game. I am going to take West Virginia over Texas Tech. They haven't, in the last 5 games, West Virginia hasn't allowed a team over 40 points to score on them. Yes, Texas Tech, and the stats I read from their quarterback Morton, was impressive last week. They did allow Oklahoma State to get 48 on them. So if their defense doesn't tighten it up this week, I think West Virginia could run the ball fairly well towards Texas Tech. I'm going to have to give it to West Virginia. Big upset. I think it's going to shock everybody, but that's who I'm going with. That's my pick. Let me guys know what you guys think about it down in the comments. So let's move on to our next game. Next game, I have the Louisville Cardinals. They're 7-4 against the Kentucky Wildcats, who are 4-7. Louisville is favored, but Kentucky leads the series 20-15. Kentucky's 31-14 loss at number 3 Texas was its 5th in 6 games and eliminated the Wildcats from the postseason for the first time since 2015. Now, they hope to end the season on a high note with their 6th consecutive Governor's Cup victory over arch rival Louisville. And the bowl-bound Cardinals seek their first Cup win since 2017 with quarterback Lamar Jackson. They visit Lexington after routing Pittsburgh 37-9 in their ACC finale and received 24 votes in the AP Top 25 poll. 2 things to watch for in this game is definitely going to be Louisville's passing attack versus Kentucky's pass defense. The Cardinals threw for 293 of their 505 yards against Pittsburgh, and they ranked 13th naturally at 284.8 yards per game behind quarterback Tyler Show. And Kentucky's defense, though, stands at 28th at 188.7 allowed per contest and also ranks in the top 30 in other defensive categories, including red zone defense and scoring. I'm going to have to give the edge to Louisville, though. I think their pass game and their run game is going to be way too much for Kentucky to uphold. Yes, their defense has played very well this season, as opposed to what their record is at 4-7. But I think Louisville is going to come out on top of this, get the edge slightly, and beat the Kentucky Wildcats, ending another bad season. Next matchup, I have the number 5 Notre Dame Fighting Irish 10-1 against the 6-5 USC Trojans. Now, these teams have been playing this rivalry for a very, very, very long time. I believe it's been almost like 96 something years. Now, we all know the type of season Notre Dame has had, stomping the majority of their opponents, beside that one embarrassing NIU loss that they took in the 2nd or 3rd week of game. That was a really, really embarrassing loss. A lot of people were kind of wondering, is that going to be their only loss? Is they going to come back? It looks like they did, and Notre Dame has trumped every opponent they've had this season. USC been a little on and off. Their quarterback, Miller Moss, has had a few interception problems here and there, but he's still been pretty good with their touchdown ratio. The Trojans are 3-1 in their last 4 games, and they only have 1 loss at home, and that was to Penn State, and it went into overtime. I'm picking another upset in this matchup, though. I like Miller Moss over Riley Leonard. I like Woody Marks over Jeremiah Love. I believe USC is going to pull off the huge upset Notre Dame in their last game of the season, put them at 10-2. If Notre Dame does lose this game, I believe they're still going to be in playoff contention. So they're still going to be playing hard, no doubt, because they're going to want to get this win over their very, very long time arch rival at USC at the Rose Bowl, nonetheless. But I think USC is going to dig deep, find something in them, and they're going to come off and pull off the upset against Notre Dame. That game is at 3:30. Next game I have on this 10-game slate, Jacksonville State Gamecocks 8-3 against the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, who are 7-4. The Jacksonville State Gamecocks are 7-0 in conference, and I do like their running back Trey Stewart for 1,300 yards and 19 touchdowns over Western Kentucky's rush game. Although their passing game has been better than Jacksonville State, this is only the second year that Jacksonville State has been an FBS conference. They come from the FCS in 2023, and last year was their first season in FBS contention. They went 9-4, guys. They're currently 8-3 right now, 7-0 in the conference. I'm gonna give the edge to Jacksonville State. I think they're gonna pull this out over in their Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. They have won 5 of their last 5, and Western Kentucky has lost 2 of their last 5. That was against Louisiana Tech and Liberty. So I'm going to give this to Jacksonville State. I don't know an awful lot of these two teams, but I do know Jacksonville State has been playing very good football since making their transition into the FBS. Next game coming in at number 7, I have the Appalachian State Mountaineers 5-5 against the Georgia Southern Eagles, who are 7-4. This game is at 6 o'clock. I'm gonna give the edge to Georgia Southern. It's been 10 years since they've joined the FBS, and they've been a pretty solid FBS football team, making the playoffs almost every year. Appalachian State has won 3 of their last 5, adding to their 5-5 record. So they seem like they're on a little bit of a up trajectory. They found a little bit of rhythm, possibly. They beat James Madison last week. I'm still going to give it to Georgia Southern. I think their defense is going to stop the passing and rush game of App State rather quickly. So I'm going Georgia Southern in this matchup. Next, heading into the nighttime slate of games, I have the number 3 Texas Longhorns, 10-1, taking on the number 20 Texas A&M Aggies, who are 8-3. Now, huge implications of this game. I cannot stress it enough. The winner of this game gets a spot in the SEC championship game against Georgia in the renewal of a rivalry that dates back to the 1890s. Holy crap, that's a long time. The Longhorns have dominated this series and have had bragging rights for the past 13 years after winning the last meeting in 2011 on a last-second field goal. Texas A&M looks to rebound from a 4 overtime loss to Auburn and get a third win this season over an AP top 10 team. I'm going to give this to Texas. I think they're going to be a lot more hungry to go against Georgia in that SEC championship game and more solidify themselves as a top 3, maybe even possibly a top 2 school in the country heading into the playoffs. Texas A&M's running game has been very good this season, but so has the Texas run defense. Last week, they held the Kentucky Wildcats only to 21 yards on 30 attempts. And Texas A&M has had at least 200 yards rushing in 6 games this season. So I believe this is going to be a battle on the ground. I am going to give it to Texas, though. I believe they want that SEC championship much more than Texas A&M, and they're still going to be shaking off that very bad 4 overtime loss to Auburn last week that they took. And coming in at number 9, I have the 24 Kansas State Wildcats, who are 8-3 against the number 18 Iowa State Cyclones, 9-2. Another Big 12 championship game implication for this one. The Cyclones are going to have to beat the Wildcats. They probably are going to be in, and they'll probably be playing Arizona State, would be the likely opponent if the Sun Devils win at Arizona. For the Wildcats to make it, so much would have to align for them to advance, and that's starting out by number 1 beating Iowa State in Iowa. I also need Baylor to lose and the Arizona State Sun Devils to also get a loss to hopefully make it in if it's Kansas State. But I am going to give this to Iowa State. I do like their passing game and their receiving game a lot more than Kansas State. Their rushing game has been pretty lacking this season with Hansen, but I'm going to give it to Iowa State. I think they're going to pull it off. I don't think it'd be too far out to reach to say Kansas State could come out and pull the upset. I do think this is going to be a very close game made by possibly a field goal or just one score. But I'm going to give a slight edge to Iowa State, although I do think Kansas State is going to make it a challenge for them. And last but not least, game number 10, I have another exciting Sun Belt Conference matchup with the Marshall Thundering Herd, 8-3, with James Madison Dukes, 8-3. James Madison had an historic season last year, but the Marshall Thundering Herd have been playing very good football this season. They're 6-1 in the Sun Belt Conference. James Madison has come up short 4-3, losing to Georgia Southern and Appalachian State. A matchup that I had in my earlier picks here in their last 5 games. Marshall is on a 5-game winning streak. So I'm going to give it to Marshall. Close game. I think it's going to be close again, probably by a score. Maybe 2 if Marshall really puts it on them. The rushing game and the receiving more than James Madison. So I'm going to give the slight edge to Marshall. And I've always kind of thought their logo with the buffalo. Anyways, everyone, that is my final pick for the Week 14 college football matchups. Rivalry week, let me know down in the predictions what you guys think. Who you think's going to be winning? Who do you think's going to be winning? Matchups that I didn't cover. Who you think's going to be losing? Where do you think I fucked up? Where do you think I got it right? Let me know down in the comments. I want to hear your guys' opinions. Don't forget, if you like this video, to like and subscribe. And I will see you guys on the next one. Enjoy Rivalry week, everybody.